So very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time out to be with us today. I am Minu Sirsalewala, Executive Editor, Special Project CyberMedia, your moderator and host for today's virtual roundtable on maximizing digital transformation and security operations. So just to share the agenda for the day so that we are on the same page, we will have a panel discussion with our distinguished guests today, and followed by a brief presentation by speakers from Mindtree and ServiceNow, followed by a Q&A session. So it's very crisp and brief in terms of the format, and looking at a lot of insights being shared by the experts we have on the panel. To begin with, for the audience especially, I have some housekeeping essentials to announce. Ladies and gentlemen, for the duration of the webinar, the participants will be in a listen-only mode. However, you will be able to send questions through the chat, and we will take them up in the Q&A. Your feedback is extremely important for us, and hence may I request you all to submit your feedback at the end of the session. So just to dive into the conversation that we have lined up today, there's a significant rise in the cyber threats, knocking at the enterprise door, regardless of the organization size, its area of operations. You could be in any business kind, especially post-pandemic. We avoid mentioning the pandemic now because I think it's been reiterated the way it has changed the way businesses are operating. But businesses do continue to progress in their digital transformation, and they're increasingly moving to the cloud, adopting IoT, constantly adding new tools, with the distributed work environment. As a result, we are expanding the attack surface, which is increasing the security, financial, reputational risk. So it's very critical for the enterprises here, to develop and implement a proactive incident response plan that could combat your increasing lack of perimeter visibility, in-house expertise, proactive incidents response. And but I think the trouble here is that the enterprises with constant shifting security budgets, skilled manpower shortages is making it extremely difficult for businesses to defend themselves from these malicious attacks. They are both state-sponsored, premeditated, all kinds. So there's really no organization in today's time which is exempted from cybersecurity threats. So be it a business giant, I would not be taking names here. I'm sure we all are familiar with the incidents that have been happening, or be it a small size, just around the corner kind of a player also. So this is where a CISO really plays a crucial role and devises the initiative for their organization's security strategy, keeping in mind, the business objective and business enablement. So to have a strategic, prudent plan of action that instantly runs, followed by a security breach is crucial to limit your incident cost and damages to the company's reputation. So, in this digital transformation journey, there is enormous challenges being faced by the CISO. And this is where, to shed light on this critical aspects, we have our distinguished guest with vast experience in the cybersecurity domain. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists. We have with us Kalpesh Doshi, Group CISO, HDFC Live. Kalpesh is a multifaceted technical leader with over 2 decades of extensive experience in designing and delivering effective corporate, information security, and business continuity programs mapped to global compliance standards, defining and evolving the direction of the cyber services to ensure the delivery of security solutions and enabling the adoption across product and application landscape. Kalpesh is known to be an innovative and goal-oriented technical leader with functional expertise in information security strategic framework implementation, application security architecture, information security policy, procedure standard developments, amongst others. Thank you, Kalpesh, for taking the time out and being here with us today. Next, we have Apurva Dalal, CIO, Adani Green Energy. Apurva is an accomplished professional with 3 decades of rich and extensive experience in monitoring the effectiveness of technology resources within an organization. He has attained proficiency in directing technology planning, cybersecurity, IT setup, strategy development, leadership and implementation, business and operational transformation execution, and business solution delivery across pharma, manufacturing, EPC, renewable, and consulting domains. His dexterity lies in delivering digital transformation solutions that engage executive management and diverse teams at all levels, with the development of IT roadmaps with the vision, strategy, and release plans, leading to significant saving in man hours and overall costs. Warm welcome to you, Apurva. We also had Rajesh Hemrajani, who had agreed to be a part of the panel, but he's extended his apologies because he has to attend to a pressing issue on an urgent basis. So we will definitely miss having him around. Next on the screen, we have with us Chandan Pani. Chandan Pani is the Chief Information Security Officer for Mindtree, where he's leading Mindtree's global and diverse information security and cyber risk strategy. He has managed several projects on penetration testing, threat modeling, vulnerability management, security risk assessments in pre and post production environments, and information risk management for large ITs projects. Along with certifications like CISSP, CISA, and CRISC, he has over 20 years of IT and information security leadership experience across business domains. Following cybersecurity industry is his passion, and that really keeps him busy. And I've got to know that he loves to go for long jogs for unwinding. So welcome. We also have Murali with us, Senior Security Sales, ServiceNow. Murali has over 25 years of experience in the industry and over 20 years in the security industry. He has been in leadership roles at Symantec, HP, Barracuda Networks, and now at ServiceNow as Head of Security Sales. A very, very warm welcome to all our panelists and the members of the audience. And we are really looking forward to an insightful interaction and discussion with this panel. So I will dive into the conversation directly because I think the onus is with me now to get it going. To begin with, Kalpesh, if I could start by posing a question to you. So what does it take to be a CISO in this world of digital transformation, and how has the role really evolved and the responsibilities within an organization changed from what it was, say, maybe a decade ago?
Sure. I think security has evolved. I can put it this way: when I started my career about 25 years back, it was difficult to explain to people that security is about IT security. Often, they doubted whether I have joined the security guard service. So, from those days, where there was EDP, there has been a transformation, no doubts about it. And what is also important is security has changed not only over the last 2 decades, it's also changed in the last 2 years. We call it a pre-COVID world and a post-COVID world, right? And that two worlds are very distinct. They're very different, and they have different challenges, that we have to face. I would say as organizations, it's about the push for the digital. It's how every organization is exploring ways and means to reach out to their customers, to reach out with unique services, leverage on the technology. So a lot is changing really in terms of security as a space. It's getting complicated because we want to have a user experience which is, I would say, which is persistent across all the platforms. So all of this is only possible. We want to give custom services to our users and our customers. So all of this end of the day boils down to that we're going to use more and more of data. We're going to rely on more and more of let's say be a cloud, or we're going to leverage on internet. So that really changes the paradigm for CISO. And I'm seeing increasingly CISO earlier were only part of driving certain certification programs, or they were only involved when things used to go wrong. That's no more the case. CISO today have a place in every boardroom. They have a voice in every management, and most important, every management is serious and they are concerned about cybersecurity. So I do feel that's a huge. So from where I started, that people used to doubt whether you go join a security guard service, to the fact that everybody understands and everybody kind of respects the kind of contribution a CISO makes or the organization makes. Then that's a phenomenal change in terms of the timelines.
Great. So Apurva, I would like to ask you, you've also been in various sectors. So what has been the transition for you? How have you seen it evolve?
Like Kalpesh mentioned that, initially organizations were not looking at cybersecurity as a key role. But I think over a period of time, I think they have realized that cybersecurity plays a key role. And, if you look at now today, in today's scenario, a lot of devices which are like Wi-Fi enabled. So IoT is also playing a key role. And all these things, now people have started seeing it, that if they are not aware about the cyber security, what happens. So if you look at the incidents which are coming in, that how you are getting phishing mail or ransomware attacks and all that, I think people have now taken cybersecurity very seriously, and after pandemic, they have definitely realized that. So yes, there is a big transformation which has happened. But what I see is right now the transformation has happened in IT side. OT side still has to catch up for the cybersecurity part. So that's what I have seen.
So, extending it to maybe Murali now, because, you have an extensive interaction with the customer facing world. So how have you seen the writing change on the wall over there?
Yeah, thanks, Minu. I think the changes that we are seeing is very quick adoption of cloud. I think lot of customers who were not very keen on getting to cloud, I think have moved very rapidly onto cloud. That automatically has brought in a lot of challenges for customers, right? And with the projection of by 2025, more than 50% of the applications will move to cloud, that automatically, I think, brings a lot of challenges to people like Kalpesh or Mr. Apurva of how we are going to manage security at both the places, because most customers will run on hybrid model. Added to this, I think the challenge we also see with customers is lack of enough good professional cybersecurity experts, right? Because now I think it's all encompassing kind of skill set is needed. People who need to understand a broader spectrum, not just understanding endpoint security or network security. It has to be beyond that. So I think what one report says is there'll be a shortage of almost 1.8 million professional cybersecurity gap by the end of 2022. I think that's a huge gap what we're looking at. So I think so the move, the way it looks like it, most customers are looking at moving to automation. That's going to be the key, using AI and ML, which will outdo the AI and ML being used by the hackers or the adversaries as well, because I'm sure they are also using AI and ML from their side. So I think AI, ML, and automation is going to be very, very important to ensure that we safeguard the infrastructure we're building and also the environment we're going to creating, both on-prem as well as cloud.
True. So, Chandan, your perspective, you must have also seen a role change here completely. So, what is your take on it?
Okay. Now, if you look at the digital penetration in last couple of decades, right, it has gone in a complete different direction. Today, as simple as anything, I'm not sure when last time I visited my bank.
True.
Now, that's the level of digital penetration we have on this world, right? The likes of your food ordering platforms, the supply chain automation, every bit of day-to-day life is getting digitalized. With digitization and digitalization, there is a significant amount of data, there is a significant amount of digital infrastructure coming into life. And in last couple of decades, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, that has only gone up by multiple folds. Now, earlier, the probably couple of years ago or decades ago, the CISO's roles used to be very limited. Very famously, somebody has told earlier that guard, your gate, and a firewall used to be all that life of a CISO earlier, probably a couple of decades ago. But now the world has gone out of our control, right? Now we are talking about the attack surface management. We are talking about the vast digital footprint that organizations are having. We are talking about multiple applications, complex applications, the organization's own DNA of applications. There are so many things which has gone up. The inclusion of IT as a basic service in our day-to-day life in the organizations is adding to the complexity. Now, probably one swift change which happened during pandemic. Now, desktops got obsolete probably overnight. Now, I don't see any organization talking about a desktop anymore. Now laptops are default way of connecting to anything and everything. With that, with a flip of a switch, we moved away from desktop to laptop all of a sudden, right? Many organizations used to register earlier that, okay, laptops are mobile, we don't know where you are working, probably the remote environments are not safe, secure, so on and so forth, right? But today, if you see any organization for that matter, if you look at State Bank of India, if you look at some of the privatized banks, all of them are talking about remote working, digital working, inclusive working. There are multiple ways of remote working actually coming into picture. Probably the last word would be hybrid working. Now, with all that, the CISO's lives are not same. It is only going to be complex. It is only going to be difficult. And probably with some solutions, with some amount of risk management, some amount of automation, we can address it. But I don't think things are going to change drastically. That's my take.
True. So as you know, all of you have been echoing the same thoughts that of course we have seen transformation, we have seen this extent of digital footprint. And this also brings us to that very important aspect of, security awareness. So as we are being made more aware, there are more breaches happening. From an organization's perspective, what is the level of security awareness? What should it be? What shouldn't it be? So the case in hand could be the most recent one, just a day back, the Tata Power cyber attack, on the infrastructure impacting the IT systems. We've heard Apple, Meta, Twitter, Uber, Samsung all have, disclosed cybersecurity attacks this year. So, if I would like you to share a perspective, so is it about awareness, or is it the failure to prepare for cyber attacks that has been leading to these kind of incidents, even with giants and, who are supposedly very good with the security hygiene? So Apurva, Kalpesh, if you could, take this, and then I could move on to maybe Murali and Chandan. Mr. Apurva, if you're speaking, you're on mute, I think.
Favorite line, digital world, you are on.
So human is the weakest link in the cybersecurity. That's where, awareness is very important. And like you said, how much protection you have put for the organization, that is also required, because just being aware, and you can handle up to certain level of phishing or something else, but what about your perimeters, what about your cloud and all that? How do you protect that? So you require both things in the place, because that is more important. And looking at in today's scenario where you have hybrid model, plus now IT OT, earlier it used to be air gapped. Now today IT OT are converging. So that becomes more, because critical infrastructure getting impacted. It's a human life loss, whereas IT side, it is only just your information loss. So that is where both the things are required in cybersecurity space.
So just to just elaborate a little bit more, is there anything that you're practicing at Adani which you could talk about? Any awareness program which you have seen creating results and getting a better hygiene in place when it comes to the security?
Yeah, so sure. So we do regular cybersecurity awareness training. We also release alerts and communication across all the users, that what is happening in the market, what is happening around the world. So they get information on that. Okay, this kind of attack has happened. What would have gone wrong? And we also provide communication regarding the basic hygiene, what they need to take care of while they are looking at the email from unknown senders and all those things. Plus we also do simulation of phishing attack and all that, so that helps them to be more aware about it.
All right. So also, Kalpesh, you come from an industry which is of course very data extensive. A lot of third-party integration, because you have this where you would be getting a lot of third-party involved. So how is the scenario for you all, when it comes to creating awareness, looking at cyber attacks, the incidents always increasing. So what's your perspective?
Sure. I think, Minu, it's like today, if I walk on the road or if I drive a car, I could have an accident, right? There is a lot of paranoid in the industry when it comes to a security breach, because a moment breach happens, we just feel that like everything is broken apart and things have just failed, right? That's not the case. There's always a pros and con, right? When a business makes a conscious decision that they want to go digital, there's always a risk associated with that, and it's not new. Even the older and traditional business models had their own risk, right? They had their own pilferages. They had data theft, data espionage is not something that got invented with the advent of internet. It was there ages before even we had electricity, right? So that's not new, right? The paranoid and the reaction is new, right? I think we need to come out of that stage. We need to be accepting the fact that today, as you know, it's like when you drive a car, you have to be ready that today, tomorrow, or anytime, right? You could come across or you could meet an accident, and you try to limit the damage. I think that's what every organization is looking for today. It's not being paranoid about not having an incident, but it's rather approach. It's rather about how do you respond to an incident. I think that's going to define how organizations are shaping up. Um, Recent times, I've seen organizations have shown a lot of maturity by sharing the data, not hiding it, from in terms of what has happened, and giving sort of a clarity, and perhaps giving calming the nerves, because otherwise speculations do get better. The grapevines gets better of data and facts. So do believe that is important.
True.
Uh, Third party vendors, yes. I think Murali did cover a point that there is a lot of shortage of security resources. I would just extend that there is
True.
generally a shortage of resources because there is an explosion of digital initiatives, and there is generally a lag, like we're seeing attrition is going up, right? So you're going to rely more and more on the third parties, because that's how you're going to build the synergies. Otherwise, we're going to spoil the market. So from that perspective, it's important that your vendors understand your organization culture, they understand your organization policies. Contractually, you have the safeguards in place. And I completely concur with Apurva that you're only as secure as your weakest link. So it really boils down to looking at people, processes, and technology, and making sure that you address them in a cohesive manner. Otherwise, even if you buy best of the tool, which is the most expensive, you won't be bound to be compromised. So it's not how big a purse you have to make the investments. It's about how cohesive, or how well coordinated is your organization to respond. So again, it's not a question of whether you'll be compromised. It's just a question of when you'll be compromised, and when that happens, how do you respond in a manner where it doesn't really harm your organization, or it gives an assurance that yes, while it's happened, you've done enough to protect the data at all times. I think that's my perspective on this.
So Chandan, quickly, what do you see this as happening in the market generally, the level of security awareness?
See, the security awareness is something to do with the organization, the culture, the individual, and the industry or domain that they are working with. Now, historically, we are trying to address it with some or other form of trainings, some other form of teaching, educations, different kind of simulations. But somewhere I feel these are not enough or not effective. Now, if you look at all the organizations that have compromised in the recent past or in last couple of years, right? Probably few of them were actually good in terms of the security controls, their awareness, and so on and so forth, right? Now, what exactly went wrong there? How the last leg of security actually failed? That is something we need to understand. Now, as we change, as the digital footprint is changing, it is very difficult to understand the digital awareness levels of different people in an organization. Same organization, same platform, somebody sitting at Japan, somebody sitting at China, somebody sitting at US, Europe, India, all of them, they would have probably different level of awareness about the same digital solution. Now, in this kind of model, it is very difficult to bring all of them into same page. And attackers, they actually exploit the gap. They know exactly when to attack, what to touch, what not to touch. So somewhere we need to figure out a way, and human brain is differently wired. And I believe information security teams are not equipped enough to address human brain, because when you talk about training and awareness, essentially you are talking to somebody where you are trying to change the behavior of a person, right? You're not supposed to click this email. Now that's where you're trying to change the behavior of that person. Now somewhere some of these things needs to be changed, looked at in a different way altogether. Now probably some of the solutions with AI, some of the solutions with automatically behavioral identification pattern, the UBS of the world, they are coming into picture. They are trying to help up to certain extent, but I believe heavy lifting has to be done, and we need to look at different avenues to address this.
Great. So Kalpesh, I think this would also just make me ask you that, we are talking about the application layer. So as we said, the weakest link, the human being the weakest link. So do you think there's something called as beyond layer 7 security? Can we look at something like that? And if so, what is it?
I'll be very honest, Minu. Yes, we do hear that there's a need for extensive monitoring of, all your packets and your network traffic. There would be, but if you really ask me, right, I just feel that even if you stick to the hygiene, that would be more than sufficient, for you to really manage your kind of your responsibilities. It's like 80-20. It's Pareto, kinds of the theory. Your 80% issues can be resolved with 20% controls, and those are nothing but your hygiene, right? So the simple thing is, I would rather say that the way we are moving, DevSecOps, right? It's a shift to the left, right? Is going to be very important, because what really is happening is the pace at which your new services, new products, new changes are being incorporated there, the way they have been introduced. It's often seen, right, that the traditional approach is not working that great. So there is a need for DevSecOps, where you can really make sure that every element where a code is being developed, right from the ID point of view till the time it gets tested, security is getting tested at every stage, so that there are no surprises, there are no shock, and there are no last minute kind of and this is what a life of a CISO is all about. When a product go live is there, or an application go live is there, a day before they would come to you for a security approval, and it has vulnerabilities that you cannot approve, and there is a fight, and CISOs are made the villain that look at this person, only because of it all our products go live are hampered. And we are kind of celebrated in our organization that look at these people, this is because of which our digital initiatives are killed. But that's not the case, right? So there is a genuine need. If you ask me the problem statement, right, that's a problem statement. And I do believe that DevSecOps, it's more of splitting your, or integrating security testing as an integral part of overall culture of your organization. It starts right from the time you plan your infra, that you have, I would say, a stable, or you do a systems acceptance testing, which is a stable environment where all your parameters, your configurations are all standardized. They're as per the standard operating procedures. Then when the code or application is developed, test it at every interval, right from the stage that when a developer types a code, it should prompt them that, hey guys, you're typing unsecure code, and you would want to change that. So it's trying to really shift it and see how and that will bring a big change in the industry. That's my view.
So Apurva, are you also labeled as a villain?
Yes and no, because I play both the roles sometimes.
That's why, because you are on the IT side, so for me, very important to ask you that, what is your take on the 7 and beyond?
No, see, so for as a CIO, I am a sandwich, between the business and the cybersecurity, and I have to see both the sides, because I have to protect the organization, and I have to also see that I service my customers. So yes, sometimes when you put your foot down, that time you are seen as a villain. But definitely, I think. More and more, once you start interacting with the business, that what are the cons they will have, or sometimes we say, okay, just sign off this risk form, and once that comes into picture, then they are said, okay, no, whatever you are doing is fine, just go ahead with it. So that's what the life is about, because they feel too much security you are putting in, and nothing is happening. Why are you worried? But then we have to explain them what is going on in the world. See how even the most secured organizations are also getting hacked. So we are just putting what is required, at least to protect the organization. So that is basic, like Kalpesh said, basic hygiene is required. So if it is not, even if it is not there, then it's a bigger challenge.
Great. So Murali or Chandan, would you like to add something? Because I like to ask this question on layer 7, that is there anything beyond there or
layer 7. So okay, now let's go back a bit more and see. The question is coming from layer 7. So there are already 7 layers defined by OSI, and the entire security world revolves around it. What is there happening on which layer? Now, when you say what is beyond layer 7, the traditional definition is whatever is there between your keyboard and the chair is the layer 8. Okay. Now, there are enough theories around it, how to fix it, what to do, what not to do, whether it is required, it is not required. Now, in my view, slightly different. What I believe, beyond layer 7, we are talking about this subject or topic because the layer 7 is almost now 40-50 years old. And looking at the contemporary digital world or the future world even, probably that is not going to help us enough the way it is doing till date or probably till yesterday. Things are changing. Now, when I say things are changing, now there are automations which are happening, but in different speed. Now, Murali probably can throw more light on this. There is a space where detection happens. Now, this space is getting pretty much automated by various solutions in the world. Now, because of that, the identification, the detection, the correlation to identify something is pretty strong. But the problem is how I respond. Now, the response part, how the entire response can be automated, how the human element can be baked into the response side, how that can be orchestrated together as a solution, that is something beyond layer 7. Now, this is one area that CISO need to focus, because identification, end of the day, we know something is wrong, but what we are going to do about it, how fast we are going to address it, what is the visibility we have around that particular identification, right? What arsenals we have, what tools we have in our backyard to respond it. Those things are important, and that needs to address beyond your layer 7. And that's my take on that. Probably Murali, over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Chandan, sir. Kalpesh, sir, you mentioned a very important point, right? I mean, SecOps has to be looked into very seriously. I mean, that's very important. And as Chandan mentioned, there's a lot of automation that's already happened in collecting information, and you have tools that will do scanning of an entire environment and tell you where the problems are. There is enough tools available in the infrastructure, in your SOC, that will capture every incident, right from badging till logging in till application, the PIM, PAM violations, everything gets captured. But the problem with customers is, what do you do with so much of information? Which one do I attend to first? The threat intelligence says the network security has to be attended to first, but there is another one that's actually also having a problem with application. So from a business context, I think actually I should be looking at the application vulnerability and not the security and network vulnerability as of now, because if an application goes down, it can probably have a huge business impact on me, right? So, so the point about response is very important, as Chandan sir mentioned. And I think and again, here it is all about automation, right? I mean, the amount of information customers have today, it's humanly impossible to actually look at everything. It's definitely not. I mean, I don't think you can put so much of manpower. The tools are too many. Skill set is going to become a challenge. I think automation is the way. And to do automation, I think all of us will agree, we need to have technology to bring all the information to one place first. We should be able to bring in the key assets information to one place, the software, the hardware, the security information, the users. I think all has to come to one place. Once it is there, then I think the AI ML can do its job, and we can put in a lot of automation for sure. And with the government of India now asking most companies or almost every company to give a 6-hour report, we shouldn't be surprised that they're going to come out with a law that's saying, what is your response to it? Now you're reporting about the situation. They'll probably come back with a statement and say, how are you going to respond to that? And I think then response will become even more critical. And I think they probably will start with the critical infrastructure now, with banks and airports and the public sector and establishments which are serving the citizens. I'm not surprised if they'll bring it to everybody and say, tell us how you're going to respond to the situation. That's my take. Yeah.
I just add this question also.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One more point. I just wanted to answer to the previous. I wanted to add to the previous about human beings. I think that's very critical, as Apurva sir said. That is the weakest link, because the attackers themselves have been very smart. They move from attacking organizations to attacking individuals. If you look at a mobile phone today, it's got everything. I mean, I'm accessing my CRM, my ERP, my HR application, my payment portal. But does anybody spend a 1 rupee on my protecting my handphone? Unless the company is taking an MDM solution, I don't think anybody spends 1 rupee to protect my handphone. So the adversaries know if I want to get into an organization, it's easy. I don't need to go break my head on the perimeter security. I just need to break the individual. If I break the individual, I can get into the network, right? So I think, as Apurva said, sir, I think it's very important to educate people, and I think people need to also take self-responsibility about how they want to be part of this overall security, because CIOs are like wicket keepers in a cricket match. You take 7 catches, nobody will talk about you. You drop one, everybody will speak about you.
Absolutely. So yes, we have been setting the right path for the importance of an effective incident response plan. We have heard so many of these attacks permeated, state sponsored everything. So how crucial is this to the organization, to have a IRP in place, and do we really see that prevalent? Especially, Apurva sir, if I could ask you, what kind of an IRP you think you have in place, or what is the status around the organizations, generally in our country specifically?
See, incident response plan is the most important thing, because when the cyber attack happens, okay, what is the first thing that a person needs to do? Okay, if that first thing is missed out, then it creates a havoc. So that is where having an incident response plan is very, very critical. And like Murali said, government is also now looking into it. So if you look at critical infrastructure and all that, certain has started getting into this talking about incident response plan, cyber security, cloud posture management, and all those things. They are asking right now, it is not a mandate, but they are asking, are you ready with all these things? And because SECI and everybody who are into power sector getting involved as a nodal agency to discuss with organization, and they are helping them out. So that is where government has also understood that unless and until we have the solid incident response plan in place, whatever kind of security measures you have, if you have to dealt with the effect when the attack happens, that will not work if you don't have IR in place.
So Kalpesh sir, of course, the obvious question for you. So what kind of IRP do you see it actively prevalent in an organization? So also, is it like a fire drill? Is it practiced on regular basis or something like that?
Oh yes, I think a plan is only as good as how much can you use it in a real world, right? So from where I used to
Absolutely.
come, again, IDRBT used to do cyber drills for all the banks, and I think that was again a very great concept where you were exposing your banks to a simulated exercise on event that happens, and then see whether they have the ability to even acknowledge or even understand and see the incident and capture the incident,
To
right? And then
identify,
it goes
yes.
about exactly. Similarly, I think what every organization does have is a plan. I think it's more about turning that plan into a playbook where you get into the details of every such incident, and then you document how would your response be, right? When you really look at all major incidents, which have hit the corporates, there are two things that distinguishes them primarily. It's a good response versus a bad response, right? There is nothing in between them, right? Now, what is a good response and what is a bad response? A good response is where you're communicating what is necessary, right? And you're not communicating something which is not necessary, right? And only the right people communicate about the incidents who have the right understanding, and they have the right data being fed into them, so that whatever updates have been shared, they are accurate, and they don't fall flat, right? So all of this cannot happen on one fine day, when you wake up, or when you have to wake up your CEO at 2:30 in the morning and say, hey, there is an incident, and maybe media is going to knock your doors, and be ready about it. It's like you have to be battle ready, right?
True.
I'm not saying that we're all army professionals, right? They serve our nation way more better than what we could even dream about it. But I'm just using that comparison to say your organization has to be battle ready, that whenever an incident strikes, no, we would be able to respond in the best way possible. And I think that will only happen when you have cyber drills for your top management, where you're able to walk through with your management on various scenarios and capture that as playbook, because every incident is unique, right? Incident where you were hit with COVID, right? No incident playbook would have captured that, right? So did you plan for it? Did you envisage it, right? Or did you really get closer to an incident like that? Is very different than your data being stolen. So, you need to, and your responses are going to be different in every such scenario, right? So I think
True.
that's the way I look at it. uh, Involvement of your top leadership is necessary. Again, them being harmonized, or your response being unified is going to be critical. One person cannot be made hero when incident happens. It has to be a collective efforts of the team, so that we are communicating the right message to all our stakeholders.
True. So Chandan, so just a case in hand here. So there was this social media giant, who was facing a breach, and a simple thing like they could not physically access their centers, to address the breach. So what does it talk about your IRP? Then you have, you factor in so many of these things where you need to, the way you need to respond and things like that. But skipping something like this, you couldn't physically access the premise, because the systems were down. So your 2 bits on this.
When you talk about IRP, and all of us, we believe more practice, and which is correct. Your practice puts things into your muscles as memory, and that's how we are traditionally following it. But there is a small difference when it comes to IRP, what exactly we do and what we need to do. See what happens, it is like this, we plan our best, and the opponent also, they plan how to deal with certain things.
Okay.
And during the process, when we are there in that situation, all the individuals, they are reacting differently. And just think about a situation where, let's say, war is on. Every soldier is actually a single unit facing the enemy. Now, the unit, they might have some plan. The entire group, they might have some plan. They would have practiced it for years altogether. But when the actual war happens, after firing of the first bullet, the entire scenario changes. If the soldiers are separated by miles or kilometers or by at least some distance, then they need to practice what is there for them alone. Individually, they have to face the situation. Now, if you take that same story and fit it into a boardroom kind of scenario, what happens is everybody looks at somebody to tell them what is the plan and how to follow it. And this actually creates some kind of decision paralysis. So when we are practicing these things, we need to ensure that each individual in that organization are equipped well to understand the plan and follow it when it is required. And that is the most basic thing any organization can do. Collectively, unit-wise, we can do wonders. But when things are not good, when we are separated, because see, in a typical incident kind of scenario, you need to run multiple channels together, right from your, I think Kalpesh mentioned about talking to your CEO, talking to your media, safeguarding your stock price, looking at your legal liabilities. There are different countries, different requirements, your customers, customers, your data protection authorities, then your government officials, then your other regulators are there, then board is there, then your other bodies are there, then your customers are there, then your own employees are there. So to manage this entire communication itself is very difficult. Plus you will have your retention partners, your forensic partners, you will have your some other partners working on all these things, plus you will have your requirements to recover. Now all this work, when it starts accumulating together, and as an organization you try to address, because time is money, and when you try to address everything together, that's where the mistake happens. So individual needs to be strengthened. They need to follow the plan without the group together. That practice has to happen. If you have time and if you can put together everybody into one conference room and take decision and move on quickly, nothing will happen. But if things are not happening in that way, then the actual plan comes into picture. And that would be my 2 cents on it.
Yes, so Murali, just moving to you. So, there was a time when we spoke about 24/7, absolutely no downtime, and we used to hold it against the service providers or the data centers. So now we again see the similar scenario translating into this security breaches, So how do you ensure no downtime and effective IRP?
I think, yeah, that's a very interesting question because no downtime is something I think sometimes it's beyond us when an incident happens. I think there is downtime can happen forcibly also. Yeah, but that point apart, I think the incidents can actually be controlled, I think, by most organizations if they're able to manage the vulnerabilities also very well. I think one of the challenges we also see with customers is how are they managing the existing vulnerabilities that actually come in? Or how do you prioritize them? There are 4 challenges customers actually have that actually, that makes them or makes the situation a little more tougher. One, I think, is the quantum of backlogs and of high alerts they get. I think both from vulnerability standpoint as for also from a incident risk, security incident standpoint, the quantum of backlog is very high. 2, how do you prioritize them? I did mention it. I think it's difficult. The difficulty in prioritizing them is because everybody is not seeing the same information and everybody is not on the same page of what needs to be prioritized. I think that's the second challenge. Third is, I think, the lack of communication between the silos in an organization. Data center team, database team, the application team, the networking team, the security team, all have different priorities. I think many a times it becomes, to actually look at which is organization priority than a department priority, right? So lack of communication between silos is another challenge. And the fourth that adds and actually makes a mess out of all this is the slow manual process, where people are using Excel spreadsheets, sending out lengthy, building on email after email after email, and the email becomes 4 pages of A4 when you print it out, but there is no resolution in place, right? So I think if you're able to address these 4, that is where I think the response mechanism will become very, very efficient, if not 100% effective, but it will actually help in mitigating a lot of challenges very quickly.
True. So just keeping in line with the time, I think we're just coming to the end of our session now. So Apurva sir, if I could ask you, so if you could highlight a few challenges and certain solutions that you have come up with in ensuring that this is this desired security hygiene level I want for my organization, and this is how I need to implement it, and then maybe I could move on to Kalpesh sir to also echo his thoughts.
See, basically, there is no standard, SOP for this, because every organization is different, and
True.
they have to protect based on the structure of the organization. But the basic requirement is like we spoke about, cybersecurity awareness is required. How do you protect your perimeter? Like Murali said about the vulnerability management. So the patching is required. Your critical system, whether you have a disaster recovery in place, backup in place, so all these things, the standard things, if you do, I think you cover a lot to protect the organization. See, cyber attacks, even the products are maturing. Cyber hackers are also maturing. So they are
Always
also using different techniques.
Yeah.
So it is inevitable, that I have put everything in place and nothing, no cyber attack will happen. It is not like that. But these are the standard things. If we do it, I think we can control a lot of things.
Great. Kalpesh sir, your thoughts on this, please. So how do you ensure a certain level of security hygiene?
I think when you look at security hygiene, right, there are a few points that would really help every organization. I think first and foremost, I believe is that it's a cyber risk identification, right? And we spoke about it, right? How do you envisage? It's very difficult to read the mind of an adversary, right? Because they collaborate more than us. Today we're talking about an industry. It is a well-oiled industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry that's working, where you could, for a few dollars, buy ransomware as a service. You can customize it across. So what is really happening is the skill set required for you to carry out an attack. You're taken away that requirement altogether from the equation. Again, I think Murali did mention that well. It's not about a CISO being successful 99 times. That one time is where he's going to be remembered for, and that organization will be remembered for. So that is where your risk identification is always going to be critical, right? So when we look at hygiene, our focus should also be to understand where are our risks coming from. It would be typically be with again with what Murali said, VAPT, right? So we know that every vulnerability should be patched, right? But then we also know the day you do that, half of your applications will stop working from the very next moment. And Apurva, who's also heading IT, he would concur on this, right? He wouldn't agree more on this, that there is a gap in terms of what is a theory and what is a reality, right? Because for that theory to move into reality, it's not one person's will, it's not one person's desire. The complete ecosystem has to change, right? What if your
Absolutely.
vendor, whom you are relying, that brings me to my next one, third party risk management. What happens when your vendors are not keeping up the pace, right? Or when your vendors are not even agreeing to comply with your regulatory requirements. And I've seen it's a challenge for all of us that your vendors typically just don't agree that, I'm going to meet the regulatory requirements because they say I serve n number of industries. If I do that, I'll be going crazy. So I have my standards, you take it or you leave it, right? That adds new dimensions, right? So a lot of those weak spots are created because of such incidents that happens time and again, right? So I think those things have to be really be taken care of it. Encryption is again important. Again, we spoke about the phone, right? And we said today your data could be lying anywhere, right? So what is your best? I would say what is your best approach? Is make sure wherever your data is, at least it's encrypted so that you're making it as difficult. It's not a question of whether your data would be compromised. It's a question of how difficult are you making for somebody to
Making it.
compromise your data. I think that's where the game is, because if you go with the notion that I cannot be breached, trust me, you'll be breached, right? But if you go with the notion that I'm going to make it really difficult for somebody to breach me, and I think that will also open up yourself being more acceptable to the fact that everything is vulnerable in this world, right? It's just a question of opportunity and the resources. And if you have that, you'd be, anybody could be compromised. That's just a matter of time, right? So I think just putting that together and knowing that, right? Why I'm saying this is there is a lot of perception, Minu, that it's like I'll give you a very simple example that because you bought, let's say, one of the most expensive cars, doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be alive when an accident happens, right? And
Absolutely.
we know that this is a reality of the day, right? Ideally, because you spent 2 crores on a car, you should never die. But in reality, we know mishaps happen, we know accidents happen, and we know lives are lost, regardless of the value of the car, right? So I think we
True.
have to understand that that false perception that because I bought the most expensive tool, because I bought the Gartner's top, sort of a rated tool. I'm not discounting. They've done a lot of hard work, but only that is not going to give you, or that's not going to let you
Listen.
cross the finish line.
Absolutely.
That will help you, but that's not going to take you to the finish line. I think that's my
True.
take on this.
Great. So Murali sir, handing it over to you. I think we've had great insights from the experts. I don't see Mr. Chandan. I think he's got dropped out of the call or something. And
I think he
so,
just messaged that he's got another meeting to attend. Yeah, something
all
urgent.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So
I hope it's not a breach of some kind. So great. Asking you to please take over and summarize for us, and I hand it over to you now. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, Minu. Thank you, Kalpesh sir. Thank you, Apurva sir. I think it was a great time spent with you and interacting about what are the challenges we face and how things should be looked at going forward. And I'm sure with the experience we all have been through, it's a never-ending rat race. I think it'll always be catch up. We'll never be ahead of them, right? I mean, because I think the most intelligent people always try to be on the dark side, so we're always trying to catch up with them. Having said that, I think the four things that we need to obviously, I think what we can actually do from our side is four things which will help most customers or most to handle the situations better. One is, I think, gaining visibility and doing it in real time. I think the key is getting the visibility in real time, and the key to that is getting all the information to one place. I think that's very, very important for organizations to consider. The more you're able to get in information on one single place, the better you'll be able to get an insight into it. Second is prioritize based on the business context of what is at risk. I think that's very important. You need to find out if there is a breach, what asset of mine is being targeted. I think if your customers are able to understand that, you'll be able to mitigate the effect or the damage to a very large extent. Third, I think, is obviously because when you start doing AI, ML, and automation, the silos can be broken, right? Once the silos are broken, everybody's thoughts and actions can be directed to one particular thing, which will help the organization than helping individual departments or people. And last but not the least is, I think we should be able to track performance. And somewhere we need to know, if this has happened to me now, how will I ensure it doesn't happen again? And that, that particular recording or that particular knowledge base has to be created and kept, so that irrespective of people moving to different roles, quitting the company, I think it's very important that information is kept, so that if the same situation comes again, how I'm going to handle it. And also tracking performance in terms of the skill set of people. I think that's very important. Many organizations hire people based on certification of 2022, but if situation arises in 23, everything would have changed. The operating system would have changed, the platform would have changed, and the person hired in 2022 may not know what to do in 2023, right? So I think that is a very important cycle that we need to go through. I think if these 3-4 things are addressed, I think we can bring down the challenges and probably have better appreciation for the CISOs than what they're getting as of today. Absolutely, yeah. And Kalpesh sir said in the beginning, we remember from an EDP manager to an IT manager to a CIO to getting onto the board. I think that role has come through a long evolution.
I think there's a technical glitch on Murali's side.
Yeah, I guess there is a glitch.
Yeah. Murali, if you're speaking, or I think your screen is appearing frozen to us.
Yeah, I think so.
Murali, we cannot hear you. I hope it's not.
I don't know whether the others could hear me. Kalpesh sir,
So yeah, your screen was frozen for a few seconds. Yes.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, okay.
Hear you.
No, sorry about that. I said the CISOs have to become better rock stars. As of now, I think the recognition is not as it is for a lot of other people in the company. I think CISOs need a bigger recognition, and if they're able to do these 3-4 things that we spoke about, or in the conversation we had, automation, using technology, I think the impact of a CISO will be felt even better, because I think the main thing is CISOs should be able to say, I know what to do when this situation happens, and that will come in when visibility is there and have more automation tools where I can turn around very quickly. That's what it is.
Great.
Yeah.
So Murali sir, would you
Minu.
be presenting?
No, I think it's already time. I don't think we should do that. We're already at the hour. It's perfectly fine.
We just have 5 minutes for the Q&A. I don't know if we are getting questions. Are we having any questions that we need to take? We could ask the audience to please participate now. Share your questions in the chat window, if any. I'm sure our experts would be more than happy to address them. Wow,
Murali,
I
I
think
remember one of your sessions, you used to have a very good social advice, right? And one of the ones, we were doing it together. You spoke about use of plastic bottles, and trust me, post that I'm so careful about it. I think you should, if you have some new theme, do share with us, because I did pick up on that. So I was very careful about not wasting the bottles.
Why don't we improvise now and share something?
No, actually, this was Kalpesh, it's very good memory you have. This was much before COVID, as it was an event in Pune.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, yes. It was a panel discussion I was having, and I think course of the day I had seen that I think one of the questions that came up on the panel was, how do we protect our children from cyber attack? I said that's all technology driven, that we can take care, but how do we protect our children from the environment and that we are spoiling, which they can't create? Right?
Exactly.
And it was Minu. It was basically driven by people having only 2 sips of water and leaving a bottle and going away on a table. So we're saying, boss, if you open a bottle, please finish the bottle, because you're wasting the bottle and the water if you don't finish it. Right? So thank you, sir. Kalpesh, very, very really appreciative and thanks for remembering it.
Suppose that I carry my
Very nice.
bottle, I have become quite shameless about it because I think that's the least I can do for my generation. So carry your own bottle
Yeah,
and use that and refill it.
absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Great. So maybe just a thought here that carry your own cutlery or dispensable straws, which we use personally wherever we go. So a little bit of like a toolkit we carry with ourselves now, a spoon and a straw, something like that. So to avoid disposable and get into the renewable sources. Great. So thank you, gentlemen, for making it such an interactive session, sharing your experiences, perspectives. I think we have got great insights. I'm sure the audience would have loved listening to you all. Thank you, Mindtree and ServiceNow, partners for this virtual roundtable. So on behalf of CyberMedia and DataQuest, I would love to thank you all and thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you all. I'm also happy to inform that the panel discussion will be available as a video on demand on the DataQuest YouTube channel for you to watch again, share, and give a feedback. May I request you to please share the feedback forms that must have been shared with you all. And so this is your host signing off. Have a pleasant evening. Keep reading DataQuest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure.